One more time.
What?
Hello, you Nick Patricks and Howard Finkles. Welcome back to the 6 Wins Best WWE Superstar Bracket. We're down to our last 2 Sweet 16 matchups to find 2 more Elite 8 wrestlers who will be vying for that Best WWE Superstar crown. And so we're going to talk about 2 matchups today. Our first one, our number 1 seed, the legendary icon himself, the Hulkster, Hulkamania, Hulk Hogan, brother, going up against our number 5 seed, Randy Orton, the Legend Killer. Does he got one more legend on his checklist with this matchup? The other matchup we're talking about, counterpart to Hulk Hogan, the Macho Man, Randy Savage. Ooh, yeah.
If anybody sees this bunny hopping around, tell him I want a match at WrestleMania 40, brother.
And snap into a Slim Jim. Amazing. We'll send that back. You should just tap me on the shoulder and point it. I would have put that on there.
Oh, yeah.
Our secret prop guy. That actually wasn't Chris. Chris had to duck out for a quick phone call. That was our prop guy, Stevis. Shout out, Stevis.
Yo, what up, everybody? It's Stevis, back with another episode of Two Truths and a Lie, Clint Eastwood edition.
Macho Man's going up against the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, in our other matchup. There you go. So, these are the 2 matchups we're going to talk about. We throw these matchups up on our social media for you guys to vote on. They're on YouTube here. They're on TikTok there. They're on Twitter, yonder. And they're on Instagram, suck it down here. It's inappropriate. That's not where Instagram is. Please don't look for the polls there. That's not where they are.
Not that kind of poll.
So, any thoughts, any matchup you want to start with, or anything you want to say before we get into a matchup?
Yeah, let's talk about Hogan Orton.
Hogan Orton.
Yeah. Hogan's had his fair share of problems and reasons why people don't like him these days. But you can't forget about the impact he's had on pro wrestling. Yeah. He was the biggest thing in the 80s and into the 90s. And then even when he came back to Wrestle Rock and he had that short run and won the world title again. Hogan is just a straight up icon. And I could talk all day about Hogan. But Orton, he's had a career that's lasted over 20 years. And he was a part of Legacy, he was part of Evolution, and most recently part of RK Bro. And I think right now, because at the time of recording this video, he is not an active member of the roster.
Been out for a while.
Been out for a little while. So I think it's like that whole absence makes the heart grow fonder, because I know just the buzz is people want him back. People are clamoring to have him back. So in this matchup in particular, I love both these guys, but thinking of just overall superstar, I gotta go Hogan.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
What do you think?
So, I know I remembered last time when we were covering Orton Rollins that, Orton for a couple of years was, one of my favorite guys. When I went to a WrestleMania, I got, an RKO t-shirt. Mm-hmm. He was, the guy I wanted to win that main event match that he was in. So I always did like Orton. He's that face that, kicks a guy in the head that you don't like, and you go, yes! Yeah. He punted that dude! Hogan, on the other hand, is that face that, the kids loved, the adults were like, yeah, look at this guy. It's such an interesting matchup. I figured, even for all of Hogan's, issues and reasons why people wouldn't like him, people thinking that he just wasn't all that good for wrestling in the long run, looking back, I think, like you said, bringing wrestling, honestly, probably for the very first time, to, the biggest mainstream and popular culture. Mm-hmm. Obviously, wrestling existed before that, but I think it was more of a niche thing. Not everybody in the world knew about wrestling. Right. But Hulk Hogan brought wrestling and wrestlers into film, onto TV, onto, late night talk shows. I guess there was the Andy Kaufman and Jerry Lawler thing before Hogan's time, maybe.
Lawler a little bit too.
But yeah, I would... The only reason I would maybe take Orton is because I would say Hogan's end WWE career was not as strong as Orton's, and his maybe strongest part was WCW. And then I do think his early WWF part was probably up there with the NWO time, like very important for WWF. And I think I'd have to give it to him just for that, because that is when he had like helped wrestling crossover. And I don't know if Orton, I don't know, yeah, he's just never been the guy to carry it, like you would kind of always say.
Yeah, I think ability to carry the company is something worth considering, because there's so many different criteria what makes a good pro wrestler. I don't think it'd be like the first one to consider, but it's up there.
Yeah.
So, but when we put it up to a poll,
yeah, we put it up there, and the winner between Hulk Hogan and Randy Orton, moving on to the Elite Eight, halfway home, Randy Orton.
ooh,
With the upset over Hogan,
I'd say so.
Not very close either. Like, it wasn't like a 5 to 10 votes thing. It was a healthy number. It was surprising to me.
Super surprising to me too.
Yeah.
I thought Hogan had it in the bag.
Yeah.
What?
Before we move on really quick to the last matchup, what do you think played more of a factor? People not liking Hogan and voting for almost anybody against him, or that we undervalued Orton and maybe he's better than we might think in people's eyes?
So I think,
or the third thing, absence makes the heart go.
that's what I think. I do think that. Like, I think if Orton was currently active and he was still doing his RK Bro thing, I think timing has a lot to do with it. Like, I think if maybe he was with RK Bro and maybe it was starting to run its course and people were a little bored, I think Hogan wins. But I think right now, with the way things are, people kind of clamoring for Orton's return, I think that had a big part of it. What about you?
That's fair. I wouldn't go with I think we undervalued Orton, because I don't think by much, honestly. I mean, we'll see in his next matchup. I would go people just don't like Hogan and think like, yeah, he wasn't as good because of any other non-wrestling related reasons. That's what I'd have to say, if it's not the absence thing.
Yeah.
All right, well, we've got one more matchup to talk about. Macho Man, Heartbreak Kid. The man versus the kid. The Savage versus the Michaels. The Macho versus the Shawn. Those are all the combinations of the way you can make their names. There's more, but I'm going to stop there.
That's pretty good.
I'll start us off.
We're at the top.
I'll start us off with this. I know I said in the last video when we talked about Macho Man CM Punk, I love Macho Man's look. I love his voice and his character. He's so magnetic. I'm just drawn to the Macho Man. I think a lot of people feel the same way. Maybe not as strongly. Maybe people are like, Macho Man comes off annoying. Things like that. But for me, it totally works for me. I know I don't think he's as good of an in-ring guy as Shawn Michaels. And Shawn Michaels is every bit as magnetic and charismatic and draws people in his earlier years, in his mid-years, and in his later years. So as much as I love Macho Man, and like if you could design a perfect like wrestling character archetype that he just seems like a stereotypical wrestler, it's Macho Man. I'd have to go Shawn Michaels for just the tremendous body of work in ring, on the mic, for years and years that he's put in. He's really phenomenal.
Yeah. This match, I'm noticing a little bit of a theme with a lot of these Sweet 16 matchups. It's kind of like the bigger star, maybe crossed into mainstream popularity, versus like the better wrestler. And most of the time I'm actually going this one, like Cena versus Kurt Angle. I went Cena.
Yeah.
Hogan Orton. I went Hogan. I think this one has a little bit where it's like Macho Man, who's very, very recognizable beyond wrestling. And then there's HBK, who's definitely recognizable beyond wrestling, but is known, I'd say, more so for in-ring work.
Yeah.
Usually I go this one. Right now I'm going this one. I'm going HBK.
Yeah.
Because maybe it's recency bias. I don't know what it is, but I've recently watched a fair share of his WrestleMania matches back.
Yeah.
His match with Angle. His matches with Taker. He was just a special guest referee, but end of an era match. his retirement match with Flair. Watched a lot of these and just like, I can't vote against it.
There's still an intensity.
So,
You watch those
yes.
matches knowing the ending, and you're still, it's just a great thing to watch, and
Yes.
it's enjoyable.
He is so damn good in the ring. Even though he doesn't have a winning record at WrestleMania, I feel like he's still earned that title, Mr. WrestleMania. So I'm going Michaels.
All right. Well, we wanted to see if he'd still have a winning record in our bracket, and if he could take down the Macho Man. We asked everybody to vote. The winner, moving on to the Elite Eight, the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, Mr. 6 Wins bracket, moving on to face Randy Orton in a really fascinating matchup for that Final Four spot. We'll have to see who comes away with that.